One brother accused of beating a homeless man strikes a deal. What it means for the case. National Rifle Association pushing for more guns in schools. What local law enforcement and school leaders have to say. And our top story, stormy weather from coast to coast, upsetting holiday plans. What you can expect for the upcoming weekend.
You're watching KSBW Channel 8, Salinas, Monterey, Santa Cruz. This is Action News 8. Coverage you can count on.
Live look at Skycam 8 Monterey. All in all, not bad today. A little wind, a little rain, but, well, hold on to your hats, as they say, because we've got a long weekend ahead. And we also want to show you this. Today marks the first day of winter, and people traveling through Nyack and the Sierra certainly feeling the effects of the season. Good evening, everyone. I'm Erin Clark. Dan Green has the evening off. It has been 1 week since the tragic shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary, and we will get to our continuing coverage of that in just a moment. But we are going to begin tonight with the weather. We're going to bring Jim Vanderswan into the conversation. And Jim, we kind of got off a little bit easy today, but we're certainly not out of the woods.
Yeah, it boils down to the same thing that the business people, real estate people will tell you: location, location, location. A lot depending on where you were. But it didn't amount to a whole lot for a lot of us south of about Watsonville. The front had moved through, but up at Lake Tahoe, the winter storm warnings continue. It is just snowing like crazy, 2 to 4 feet above 7,000 feet, 1 to 2 feet below 7,000, and it's getting down as low as 5,000 feet now with some pretty good winds. So if you're planning to go up there, you better be ready for winter weather. Here's the deal. They got a whole bunch of rain going up north of the Golden Gate Bridge, all the way up along the I-80 corridor there, up into the High Sierra. A few scattered showers made it through, and a good steady rain for a while in the Santa Cruz Mountains, but not much south of there. The front literally fell apart in the wind. But we have still some periods of rain to deal with over the weekend. Wind and waves will be a factor, and in the Sierra Nevada, you get snow and all of that wind as well. Until 4 o'clock tomorrow, the National Weather Service put up a high surf advisory. Swells running 14 to 19 feet. That means breakers could run 6 to as high as 15 feet or better, and they could break very close to shore. Not good surf for surfing, unfortunately. It's going to be kind of ragged, but dangerous for people walking along the beaches, so a little extra caution there. In the meantime, tonight, mostly cloudy, a little bit windy at times, and a few passing showers. The farther north, the better. And those of you who didn't get rain, there's hope for you yet. I've got that in my forecast for a little bit later, Erin. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed, get her done before Christmas.
But if you are traveling anywhere up in the Sierra,
the farther
or
north you go, yep, and the farther east up in the mountains, the worse it gets.
So you want to give it a couple days before you do that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, if you can. Yeah.
We'll get all the details from you a little bit later, Jim.
Okay.
Thank you. Winter weather causing headaches for holiday travelers, really coast to coast. Flight delays and cancellations have been seen across the country. Traffic delays on the road expected as well. It is just going to take you longer to get wherever you are going because of holiday traffic and because of the weather. So if you're planning on traveling, keep an eye on your flight and expect slow going on the roadways. Today does mark 1 week since the deadly shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary. This morning, cities across the country honored the memories of the lost children and teachers with a moment of silence. This was the scene in Alabama today. A bell rang 26 times as a tribute to the lives lost in that shooting. And after a week-long talk about gun control and better ways of protecting our children, the National Rifle Association came out today and spoke publicly for the first time since this shooting, saying the solution isn't fewer guns, but more of them in our schools.
The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. It's been online.
NRA also suggesting armed guards at every school in the country. More than 400,000 Americans have already signed online petitions calling for gun control. The top educators say that is only part of the solution. With a look at what it would take for that to happen locally, we go live to Action News reporter Tom Miller in our Salinas newsroom. Tom?
Well, Erin, what we're hearing almost universally is that while armed officers or guards on campus is certainly one idea, it's not necessarily the best one, and that there are other potential solutions that should be explored first. Just from a financial perspective alone, this idea would be tremendously expensive. There are more than 10,000 public schools in California, according to the Department of Education. So in our state alone, that means potentially finding the money to pay for more than 10,000 new police officers. In San Santa Cruz, the police department currently provides one school resource officer to share between all its middle and high schools. And the deputy police chief says if the department were to expand that to an officer per school, costs would skyrocket. Meanwhile, in Monterey County, the superintendent of schools says when it comes to a school safety solution, it starts with the mental health of students rather than a one-size-fits-all answer of an officer on every campus.
Counseling into services of that kind that can be in there helping people to all feel successful and connected and engaged is the way that we should be focusing our attention and resources in terms of people.
To provide that at every single campus would prove to be an expensive venture. And again, I'm not sure that it's time and energy that's really well spent. It's much more reactionary. It's not really proactive in dealing with the root cause of this.
One way of dealing with the threat of gun violence on campus that we're seeing here locally, adding better infrastructure. Right now, steel fences are going up around all 21 Monterey Peninsula Unified Schools. And Dr. Kotowski added that they are doing something different with their training. They're going to have an increased focus on leadership in the event of an emergency, as well as crisis prevention and intervention. Aaron?
Certainly lots to talk about. Thank you, Tom. And the shooting in Connecticut has touched off a lot of debate about a lot of different ideas, everything from better mental health services to arming teachers. Tom will have much more on all of this tonight at 6 o'clock. Well, here's a way to get guns off the street. This one is being tried in San Diego. Authorities swapping guns for groceries. People who turned in working guns received vouchers that can be redeemed at area grocery stores. Shotguns and rifles were worth $50. Pistols and assault weapons, $100. No questions asked. And a programming note, much more on the issue of gun control this Sunday. An exclusive interview with NRA President Wayne LaPierre. He will be the guest on Meet the Press with David Gregory. That's Sunday morning, 6 a.m., only on KSBW 8. More than just gun control, treating mental illness is also a major topic that's rising up from last week's shooting. And we spoke today with one of California's top psychiatrists dealing with criminals about the challenges of predicting behaviors like we saw with last week's Connecticut shooter.
Very difficult to predict with any certainty who is going to do something as tragic and as evil as that. It's just, it can't do it. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't read people's minds, and all the psychological and diagnostic testing isn't going to assure that there's not going to be someone like what happened in Connecticut. Just isn't any surety at all.
Dr. Fithian tells Action News that in Monterey County alone, about 15% of people currently behind bars are dealing with some sort of mental illness. And with all of that as a backdrop, the funerals continue today in Newtown, Connecticut. Action News reporter Jay Gray has much more tonight from Newtown.
A week later, this struggling community and the country are still riddled with grief. At 9:30 this morning, the exact time the first shots rang out, heads bowed, hands were clasped in prayer as the nation paused to remember the fallen. In Newtown and New York, a national moment of silence inside the Oval Office and stretching across the country, including Virginia, Colorado, and Florida. The quiet slowly replaced by the lonely echo of bells, sounding 26 times to honor each of the victims. Since the tragic shooting, thousands have gathered in Newtown or sent messages of hope.
People from all over are sending, their love and their support.
Something the survivors here say they need as they somehow now try to prepare for the holidays.
I just think it'll be a tight-knit holiday and with people you really want to be with.
But the 20 small stockings, all of the decorations, serve as a painful reminder that an important part of this community will never come home for Christmas.
I think that we will look to our faith and the hope of the future and, try to live our life that these angels would approve of.
Which may just be the most meaningful gift survivors can give this season.
Many here say moving forward is the best way to honor those lost and insist their community will come back, though they also admit only after a lot of tears and time. In Newtown, Connecticut, Jay Gray, KSBW Action News 8.
On the Crime Watch tonight, the Golden One Credit Union on Abbott Street in Salinas was robbed at gunpoint at about 11:30 this morning. Police say 2 armed robbers entered the bank, demanded money from the tellers. We don't know how much money they made off with, but they did get some. Police are still searching for the robbers tonight. New developments this afternoon in the case of 2 Salinas restaurant owners accused of beating a homeless man. Today, Robert and James DeLeon came face to face with their accuser. Action News reporter Felix Cortez is live outside the courthouse with the latest on this story for us.
Well, Aaron, a couple of developments today. One DeLeon brother was ordered to stand trial on attempted murder charges. The other DeLeon brother pleaded no contest to lesser charges. What also happened in court today was that the homeless man who was allegedly beaten by one of the brothers took the witness stand today and described how he was beaten with an aluminum baseball bat. We weren't allowed to videotape his testimony, but Ramon Anderson testified that Robert DeLeon hit him in the legs and head several times with the bat when he walked by his restaurant, the XL Grindhouse in Old Town. The homeless man ended up in the hospital in a coma. But defense attorneys say Anderson initiated the confrontation and DeLeon was trying to protect himself.
We believe that the source of conflict was not simply that Mr. DeLeon didn't want him there, but a drug use around his patrons at an establishment that has a liquor license that is very carefully guarded, and around his children.
I can't explain it. Mr. Anderson, I've talked to a lot of people who say he's a calm, gentle man who, he's homeless because of a mental health issue, but certainly not someone who this was an appropriate result.
Now, the other brother, James DeLeon, pleaded no contest today to 1 count of accessory after the fact. He didn't take part in the alleged beating, but he lied to investigating officers in an effort to protect his brother, Robert. He faces felony probation when he's sentenced in a couple of months. As for Robert DeLeon, he's been ordered to stand trial on those charges of attempted murder. He's due back in court January 9th, at which time he'll answer to those charges. Aaron?
All right, Felix, thank you. Wind and snow continue to strike the Midwest. Oh, look at the damage so far and how much more snow they're expecting. One post office swamped with letters as they continue to spread holiday cheer, as they have been for more than 80 years. Plus, President Obama makes a major announcement today. A look at who could be our new Secretary of State. Stay with us for more coverage you can count on. KSBW Action News 8.